Features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
The wind is howling. It's a grey, dark, overcast morning, and the animals are seeking refuge. This is Safari Live. Ready. Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live. You are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a rather dreary Djuma game reserve for our sunrise safari this morning. It is windy, it is cold, it is overcast, but it still promises to be a wonderful day because today is Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I hope that you all have a wonderful day and that you get spoilt by your children. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got I've got Craig today. Sorry, Craig, you're hidden behind the Batcam. You're all blending in together. So Craig and the Batcam are together again this morning, and hopefully it'll be a wonderful day with the two of them. Now, it is a sort of cold morning, and the animals are starting to head into thickets. So I'm going to just go around towards our impalas and zebras. And remember, the viewers, you are the most important part of this whole thing, and so we love to hear from you. We love to hear where you are, what you're doing, and if you have any questions for us during the course of the next 3 hours. So you can use hashtag Safari Live to be able to get hold of us should you want to say hello or just want to ask any questions that you may have about Africa and the animals that are in them. And I was saying earlier that the animals are all trying to get into some sort of refuge, and you can see they're heading into these small little clusters of thickets, and you've got the zebras and the impalas all packed up together here because it is really very miserable indeed this morning. This wind is howling, and it seems to just be getting stronger and stronger. It started in the sort of middle of the night, and then over time it's just gotten heavier and heavier, and this morning it's now starting to really gust. And I would imagine we're going to find a lot of the animals are going to head into thickets this morning and try and find some sort of shelter in order to get out of this horrible wind. So it's going to probably be quite a tough morning with regards to some of these animals, and they're certainly going to see a lot of the animals on high alert. They're going to be very nervous in weather like this. It must have been a tough night to stay alive with this dark cloud base that we've got and that wind gusting. These animals are going to have really had a tough time of it. Predators would have thrived last night, and I wouldn't be surprised if a number of predators were very successful during last night's or early this morning's weather conditions. You can actually see the impalas all look puffy at the moment. They've got their hair all puffed out to be able to trap a bit of air against the body and just help to stay a little warmer because it is so cold this morning. Well, it's not that cold, it's just windy and miserable. Now, I'm not the only one out here. Mr. Sarau Byron is also joining me this morning. So let's go across to the most successful father in the Sabi Sands, Mr. Byron.
Tristan. Good morning, everyone. My name is Byron, and on camera with me this morning is Fergus. And a very happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Hope you have a wonderful day and you get spoilt. Now, I've come right up to the northeastern part of Djuma, northwestern part. Sydney's Dam. Just come to explore and look around here and just see if there are any animals that have been around. I heard lions last night, and it sounded, it was early last night, so chances of there still being lions, the chances of lions still being around are slim to none, but I would like to have a look around here anyway. I don't see anything. And like Tristan was saying, with this wind, a lot of animals do go and look for shelter and hide in the thickets or lay low. The wind is not ideal. It does make the animals a bit more nervous because they can't hear or smell any predators if they are close by, so they do get a bit more nervous. And also predators, I mean, generally predators would probably try and hunt in weather like this, but not necessarily. Early morning when it's cold and windy, I've seen a lot of predators go and lie down, lion, leopards. So yeah, but we'll try our best though and see. Hopefully the weather clears up a bit. It sounds like Tristan has got 2 male impala that are fighting on Father's Day.
We do indeed, Byron. They seem to be squaring off at this stage, and this is all the right to be a father, I suppose, and that's why we've got horns locking and sort of pushing of one another. And of course, as we come to us, they just stop and now amble across the road, which is fairly typical of the last few days in terms of animals not doing what was scripted. But let's see, there's quite a few males that are all sort of congregated in the same area in front of us here, and I wonder if there's not going to be a couple others that start to spar. There's definitely one male that's bigger than all the others. You can see he's the one that is walking now. He's got quite widespread horns, and those sort of 3 in the middle are the big 3, and I think they're the ones that are pushing each other around more than anything else. But the rut is definitely starting to come to an end. What is quite interesting though is watching, just sitting with this herd this morning, is watching the young males. So there's a few males that are about 2 years old, or 1.5 years old, going on to 2.5 years, that sort of age range, and they're actually starting to exhibit signs of rutting. So they're starting to vocalize a little bit, chase one another around, but because it's gotten so late now, the bigger males aren't even responding to it anymore. Had that been a month ago, the bigger males would have come in and really disciplined these younger guys. They would have made sure that they know that they're not going to be mating, but now, because most of the females have been mated with already, the bigger males aren't really that interested, and they kind of just look over their shoulders, watch, and then carry on. But you can see how edgy they are. Their movements this morning are not the same as normal. Normally an impala would start feeding and would be quite relaxed, but this morning when there's gusts of wind and another impala moves or approaches, so then we see them kind of bombshelling and trying to get away, and just in case there is something that's around. The zebras, on the other hand, seem very relaxed. They're not too fussed by what's going on and just head down feeding at this stage. And I wonder if this is a section of the McCurdy herdie or if this is a new herd that we've got. It seems like they know this area very well, and they hang around most of the day close to Inga's here. They kind of spend their time, and we see them lots rolling in the sand. And yesterday I had them all the way down near Philemon's Dip, so I wonder if it is the same group or if this is a new group of zebras that have decided to come into this area. Interestingly enough, we did hear lions roaring last night, and most nights we hear the lions roaring, we find that quarantine becomes very sort of desolate, and the animals don't come into this area. When they hear the lions, they tend to move off. But it seems that the lions must have been roaring a little bit further north than what I originally thought. It's difficult when you get cloud cover like this, because it often means that the sound sort of almost echoes, if you can call it that, and you battle to pinpoint exactly where they are. So they probably were still quite far off, maybe inside Buffelshoek, and if not inside Buffelshoek, hopefully Byron will be able to find their tracks coming down into Djuma. It would be really nice if the Nkuhumas decided to come back. I also saw a wildebeest somewhere here. Oh, there he is. Let me go forward for him because he's lurking as well. Ah, there's our wildebeest male. Good morning, fella. He actually blends in quite well in this dark, dingy conditions. He's sort of up against one of those dark trees, and you can see he's quite difficult to actually see. Very, very nice indeed. Well, I think we're going to spend a bit more time in quarantine, because given this weather, I don't know how many more animals we're going to see, and we seem to have quite a few here. So while we do that, let's go all the way across to Brent Leo Smith to complete the male safari for Father's Day.
Habari asubuhi, karibu sana Kenya. Well, welcome to Kenya, and good morning is what I said in Swahili. We have a beautiful herd of elephants, but if we go a bit wider, it was a lot of the main group. Was our first night in camp, and you can see camp over there. That's final control. Our tents are up there, and we had those elephants as wonderful visitors in our camp for our first night in camp. So very exciting. We've moved into our tents, and we're all getting settled in. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Senzo keys on camera, and you're on a live safari in Kenya and South Africa. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask us any questions. And a happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And I will be telling some stories about my dad, and he's probably quite an important person in terms of what I'm doing right now, and has led me on the path to the middle of nowhere. So speaking of the middle of nowhere, we're going to keep trundling on towards the hill. Let's have one more look at those lovely Ellies. And so they were right in camp last night. I could actually hear them next to my tent. And it is one of my favorite things at night is to listen to elephants. And I'll tell you a funny story about Botswana and elephants. Well, John says he's never seen elephants on the hill. Well, they're quite often on the hill up here. And there's a couple of herds that come through around camp and feed on the hill below. Now, I think it must have been one of my first... Oh, no, it wasn't. I'd started working for my dad again. I'd been in Zambia for a while, and then I came back to Botswana. And we were having morning coffee with our guests. And a lady said, "You're not going to believe, but there was a lion purring outside my tent last night." And we were like, no, I don't think so. And of course, that lovely low rumble that elephants communicate with, this poor lady was convinced she was surrounded by lions all night. Alas, it was just elephants, but that lovely is one of my favorite sounds in the world. And unlike most people who get a bit nervous when there are elephants within 5 meters, I seem to sleep much better knowing that they're there. Amanda would like to know how am I so chipper in the morning. Well, Amanda, believe it or not, I don't even need coffee to be chipper. The moment my feet hit the ground, I am awake, and the morning is one of my favorite times. The birds are calling, and one of the best things about my and Jamie's tent is we're right on the edge of camp, and we're actually surrounded by this beautiful wild olive trees, and we get the best birds. And they were going from about 4 o'clock this morning, and one of my favorite birds, the white-browed robin chat, used to be called the hugulans, and of course the tropical boo-boos. Two of the... Oh, we can hear a tropical boo-boo in the distance. Two of the best calls in the world to wake up to. Absolutely stunning. That's what this morning is. And as I say, I'm always chipper when I get to go on game drive. Isn't that exciting? And I think today we're going to be doing... And since it's a lovely still morning, we haven't had too many of those. The wind has been howling something fierce recently. I think it's a good morning to build on our Kenya bird list. Now, of course, we'll probably... Well, I'm guessing we might bump into the wonderful Angama pride as well. And you never know whether there's a cheetah around the corner. And some of you might have noticed I've got a new shuka as well. See, there's a new shuka. I like this one. It's very nice colors. There you go. So, what do you think of my shuka? Hashtag Safari Live. You can let me know what you think of my new shuka. Actually, Jamie and I went to the village and we bought about 8 new shukas. We can use them to decorate our tent. But yeah, hashtag Safari Live. What do you think of Brent's new shuka? I think it's wonderful. What do you think, Senzo?
Beautiful, man.
Yes. Now we're going to go all the way back to South Africa to a man who very sadly doesn't have a shuka. Poor, poor Byron.
Without a what, Brent? Without sugar? I didn't hear what Chantal said there. Now, it's still very windy, as you can see, the leaves and the trees, the branches blowing. Now, I've been driving very, very slowly, just trying to have a look for any tracks or signs of animals crossing our boundary, crossing into Vuyatela, but nothing just yet. But it's always worth having a slow drive in the morning, just getting out and listening and seeing if there's still a lot of movement from some of the nocturnal animals perhaps, maybe, you know, these winter mornings you can have them moving around a little bit longer during the morning or during the day because the temperature is still so much cooler. Stock, you asked if the wind only is a disadvantage to prey animals. Well, to an extent I would say mostly yes. It is a disadvantage to them generally. And again, we've just spoken about the hunting and predators being around. It's difficult for the prey animals to hear, listen, and to listen out for predators and to smell the predators. But also, it may also be a disadvantage to the other animals, to the other predators, and that's maybe picking up the scent of the animals, finding the animals. The wind probably blows that all around. Finding each other, if they call and want to find one another like lions do, the wind might make it difficult to pick up exactly where that call is coming from. So I suppose it could be a disadvantage for some of them too. Sure. Carol, you asked if the wind causes the animals to be cross or angry with one another. No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think, if anything, the animals tend to get closer together. And you see it especially with impala herds and zebra and wildebeest. Those animals, as soon as it's very windy, they all congregate close together because then they rely so much on each other for safety. So it helps to be very close to one another. I'm just listening to an update now quickly from the other guides, the rangers, see what they found. And while I do that, it sounds like Tristan's actually found some zebra already.
Well, we have, Byron, and this is quite interesting because I don't think I've seen two different herds of zebra on Djuma for many a month. So really cool to see that some of the zebras are coming back, and hopefully that will bring some of the lions back into this area more permanently as well, because if there's no buffalo, a zebra is not a bad option to go to if you are a lion pride. It ultimately is still quite a bit of meat on a zebra, so it would be something that the lions would be very interested in hunting. It brings up a sort of fascinating point about the Sabi Sands and how little hunting of zebra actually goes on. It really is very interesting to sort of see the way that the lions in this particular part of the world, they focus so heavily on buffalo that it's almost like their technique when it comes to both giraffe and zebra is not very good. Because I reckon in the time that I've been in the Sabi Sands, I must have maybe seen only 3 or 4 zebras being killed by lions in all that time, whereas buffalo would probably rank in the hundreds that have been killed. So it just shows you that lions grow up in an area hunting certain things, and the reason probably for that is because the buffalo numbers here in the Sabi Sands tend to be a lot higher than the zebra numbers. Zebras moved out of the Sabi Sands when the fence was dropped with the Kruger National Park and headed into the sort of central parts of Kruger, where it's far more favorable habitat than what we have here. And so the lions have to make do with other prey animals, and their techniques in how to hunt are different to those that hunt zebras in the central parts, or even the lions up in the Masai where Brent is, that will hunt zebra pretty much daily. So it's an interesting sort of comparison to make with our lions here. And so if you're a zebra, it's not the worst thing to be in this area. It means that you generally can get away unscathed. But you can see they're disappearing into the thickets, and I think this is what we're going to see a lot of this morning. Now that it's starting to lighten up a little bit, we're going to see a lot of our animals starting to move from more sort of open sections where they would have spent the night into these thicker denser areas just to try and escape the wind that is blowing this morning. And I can tell you, it's temperature-wise, it's just getting colder and colder as the morning's going. Instead of warming up as it should be now, we should start to see the sun coming up and it should be getting warmer. Its temperature seems to be just going downwards, and it's going to be probably quite a chilly morning for us. But you never know, with cold mornings, sometimes we get interesting things taking place. You'll find that the nocturnal animals can be a little bit more active and will move around and try and sort of utilize these conditions to spend more time being active. So things like hyena, lion, leopard, if they are active, they should be active for longer periods of time. Also, you can, in these kind of conditions, catch some of the nocturnals that just haven't quite gotten back to where they should. So things like honey badger, porcupine, civet, genet, pangolin, aardvark, these kind of animals, sometimes you find them in conditions like this. And two of the pangolins I've seen have been in conditions like this, where it's been overcast and windy in the early mornings. So maybe we'll get lucky and we'll be able to find something like that. Wouldn't that be a nice way to start the day and end the week? It's been a good week otherwise. It's been quiet at times, but we have had some very cool sightings. So John, you're wondering if the hunting tactics in these conditions would change from with regards to lions in particular. Well, John, I suppose yes. The lions will know that, one, the wind gusting like this gives them an advantage, because it's going to be very difficult for zebra, impala, buffalo, whatever it may be, to actually hear what's going on. If you sit and listen, all you can hear is leaves rustling, you can only hear grass moving, you can hear sort of this wind gusting into our ears, and it's actually very difficult to hear what's going on at the moment. And so the lions know that, and it means that they can actually be far more brazen about the way that they hunt. Instead of having to stalk and creep slowly, you'll often find in these conditions the lions will actually run quite quickly through the grass and try and get into a position as quick as possible. In terms of the rest of it, not really. They'll still have the same sort of system where they'll fan out and they'll try and drive animals towards one another in order to grab them. That still remains the same. But I find when the conditions are like this, the lions tend to be a lot more sort of brazen, is probably the word, is that they approach these animals a lot quicker than normal, and they utilize the wind to their advantage, and they know the wind creates panic, and therefore they can try and get in and cause that bombshell effect where an animal then runs straight into a waiting pride member and then increases their success rate. The other thing about this weather is that it's a lot more sort of dark and dingy, and that means that for animals it's a lot harder to see what's going on. Now, can you believe there's more zebras here now? Now, this is not the same herd, because the other herd was right on the top of this crest, and we've now come to Treehouse Dam, and we've got another herd of zebras, which is incredible. So that is 3 different groupings of zebras just this morning. Amazing. I actually don't know this group. This group is not the one that we saw yesterday afternoon. The one we saw yesterday afternoon is that second grouping that we saw with the tiny baby. This group doesn't have a very small foal in it. So this is a new grouping of zebras. I wonder where these guys come from. I wonder if they haven't come from Arathusa airstrip side. I know that there were lions apparently on Arathusa, the Solala Pride, yesterday afternoon, and maybe they've pushed them from that side towards us. But there's the big stallion that's just having a drink. And you can actually see his stripes don't match. They've almost like he's had a big cut on his side there, where the stripe has shifted out of alignment. There we go. But it's actually not the case. It's just the way that his stripes sort of blend in, but it almost looks like a cut. Sometimes you will see it with male zebras in particular, because they fight so much and they use these sharp canine teeth that they have. They'll bite one another and they'll cut it and lacerate, and then when the wound heals, the stripes then don't match and are a little bit uneven. But this is a bit of a different case. This is just the natural markings of this zebra. It's not actually that there is a cut there, it's just the way the stripes have come together. So So it means you're wondering if this herd of zebra potentially, or another herd of zebra, would ever interact and mix with another herd. Well, it is possible. The only thing is that in this particular section of the world is that we tend to have a very different situation than what Brent has got in the Mara. Brent has got such a high population of zebra there that the zebras can't afford to be the same as they are here in terms of their social structure. Here, because the numbers are low, males tend to dominate a particular grouping of females and create harems where they will then viciously defend those harems from other males. In the Mara, because of the numbers of zebra that they have there, you'll find that the males tend to just fight over females that come into estrus, and the whole big herd moves together like that. So here in the Sabi Sands, when two herds meet, what you might find is that one male will be able to overthrow the other male and incorporate those females into his harem and therefore grow his herd. But essentially, no, the two males will not mix together and allow one another together and mate with each other's females. They're going to try and keep their females to themselves, and that's why the herds here are so much smaller than what you see in other parts of Africa like Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and even Kenya. Those herds tend to get a lot larger because they're a lot more transient, and there's also a lot more sort of population and space and habitat for these zebras to survive. Yes, boy, you're going to have to catch up to your herd before another male sneaks in there. There's a few others around today. But you can see they're going to start making their way off now also into a thicket, much like the rest of them. A quick drink and then onward and forward. And we'll find the waterholes are not going to be as big a source of sightings today if this weather continues, because it's not going to be hot enough to drive animals to water, and because of the wind, most of them are going to try and stay in the thickets. Now, while our zebras slowly meander off into the distance, we're going to carry on, see what else we can find, and while we do that, let's go across to Byron, see if he's had any luck this morning, and whether or not there's any stripy beings around him.
No luck just yet, Tristan. It sounds like you've got all the luck this morning with the zebra, but we're not stopping. It's been, like I said, a quiet morning, but we predicted this. Just with the amount of wind that we've got at the moment, it is going to make it quite difficult. We'll see. I haven't seen any tracks or signs of predators just yet. I'm scanning very, very carefully. Also, what happens now, and my friend Judas always used to say this to me, when we're driving around and it's so cloudy and gloomy like it is now, it's actually quite difficult to see the tracks. You can see that those light clouds all over, overcast weather. It's sometimes even harder to see the tracks while you're driving, because the ground and the light, you can't actually see clear tracks or any predator tracks. You always used to say, go, no, the clouds. That's he didn't enjoy it when it was cloudy. He says, no, it's difficult to track in cloudy weather. I'm still scanning, just very slowly, just take a slow drive around and hoping that we find something or some sign. Fergs is also scanning for us at the moment. Well, John, you asked where the weather comes in from. So, John, some of it may come in from Mozambique, where we are at the moment, right up in the northeastern part of the country. Some of the weather, if there are any fronts or anything coming in over the Mozambican coast, any hurricanes or something like that, that's where the rain will generally come in from there. But some of this cloudy weather may come up from over the escarpment, so the Drakensberg mountain range, which is to our west. And the weather can sometimes come down there and down into this, what we call the low veld. It's a low-lying area, a low-lying part of South Africa, much lower than Johannesburg and those areas up on the, what we call the escarpment, very high, flat area part of South Africa. So weather does come in from there. It will come down the escarpment down to this area, but and occasionally the rain and that from Mozambique. Some francolins in the road, just scurrying across. And think about it. The Springboks won yesterday. Our national rugby team, they won. They beat the French side. Come on, the Springboks. So we were very happy and excited about that. Obviously, there were a few avid rugby supporters in camp. No, we really haven't had any luck just yet. Like I said, Tristan's had all the luck. He's still sitting on some zebra at the dam. Let's head across and see how they're doing.
The zebras have moved off, unfortunately. They've now gone deeper into the thickets. And we got distracted because we have our hippo friend that is sitting somewhere there. You can see the ripples from where it went underwater. Unfortunately, the wind is blowing so much you can't really see too well where he was, but he was just in the middle, and I'm sure he'll pop up again. We know this particular hippo at Treehouse Dam is a little bit shy in the last week. It kind of pops up and then goes under very quickly, and it was quite cool. At one point there was a terrapin just before it went under that was nose to nose with the hippo, and it was almost like they were having a little morning conversation before the hippo then decided to go under, and poor terrapin was sent in a bow wave away from that area, and obviously the conversation didn't go according to plan. Now hopefully he'll pop up again. I'm sure it will. It's been up and down quite a bit while we've been sitting here. Every time there's a big gust of wind, he seems to go underneath, and it must be so nice to be under that water. If you're a hippo with a big blubber layer, you're going to be still quite warm in there. The temperature of the water will probably be a little bit warmer, and on top of that, it's going to be no wind. So you're going to go under, and it's going to be calm and still, and it's not going to be nearly as sort of frigid as it would be out here. So for a hippo, it's going to be great to be in water, and you'll find that they can spend a long time going under and then popping up to breathe and under again. So these are conditions even the hippos don't really perform the way that they normally do. They'll try and stay out of the wind as much as possible. But he still isn't up, which I'm surprised about. He's been up and there we go. We've got him. He's surfaced. And you can see a little flick of the ears to get rid of all the water. And the hippo's ears are my favorite thing. When they go under, basically what happens is that ear twists in a motion, and that twisting motion seals the ear off, and then it goes underwater. And because of the shape of the ear, it does get a little bit of water collecting, and so when they come up, they have to flick their ears to get rid of that extra water so it doesn't seep in and cause a whole bunch of blocked ears to form. And very, very clever. Hello. Are you a bit unsure about us? So, Justin, you say more dangerous than a shark. Well, yes, there are very, 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 very dangerous animals. Hippos are often underrated and often taken for granted when it comes to people being around them. You'll find people will go and swim next to them and go and kayak next to them and fish next to them, and that's why hippos often cause a lot of problems. And it's interesting to kind of note the difference between the hippos and other animals. Everybody always thinks that hippos kill more animals or more people than anything else, and yes, that is true, but the statistic is quite skewed, because if we actually think about it, the exposure to hippos is far more than what we know. Far more than other animals, should I say, not what we know. What I was thinking about is crocodiles. I was going to get to that just now. But when you think about elephant and buffalo and lion and leopard, most of those animals are restricted to game reserves within the African continent, whereas hippos are throughout Africa and most of Africa's major rivers. And so the exposure to people is tenfold that of something like an elephant. And so if you had the same exposure with elephants, buffalo, lions, you might find that one of those would actually kill more people than the hippos themselves. The other side of it is that you wouldn't find anybody going on a skateboard into a pride of lions or into a herd of elephants, but you'll find somebody will take a tiny little canoe and go over a pod of hippos and then wonder why there's been an aggressive interaction from those hippos themselves. So that's the kind of reason why their numbers are so much higher than what other animals are. But they actually, once a hippo is in water, if you just give them the space, then they generally are not too bad. Now we can see there's a little oxpecker that's joined our hippo, giving him a little clean on the Sunday morning. But getting back to the crocodile point, the other thing about crocodiles is that I probably, and this is just a theory that I have, is that there is a vast majority of people that are killed by crocodiles that we never ever hear about. So yes, hippos kill people, but generally the carcass of somebody or the body of somebody that is found when a hippo attacks them. Whereas with crocodiles, if somebody is taken off a bank and dragged into water, it's actually very seldom that the body is found, and you end up with a situation where that is not reported, because a lot of the time it's in very rural areas, and so the statistics on the crocodiles is not thoroughly reported like it would be with hippos. And it would be really interesting to know what the comparison is between the crocodiles and the hippos, and in terms of if anybody has actually spent enough time researching both and seeing which one is more dangerous, because I have a funny feeling crocodiles might take more people than what hippos do. But there we go, that's a little car wash service that's come to the hippo's home in the form of the oxpecker. I always laugh with the oxpeckers because sometimes they get caught unawares when they're on a hippo. They'll be sitting and cleaning, and all of a sudden then the hippo drops down rapidly and the poor oxpecker gets half drowned. There we go. Exactly like that. So there goes our oxpecker. Now on our little tree over here as well, there is a fork-tailed drongo, and I've just been watching him out the corner of my eye. He keeps going from that perch and then going down and grabbing insects that are seemingly being disturbed by the wind itself. So it sits there and it waits, and as soon as an insect comes up, it goes down and then back onto this perch. So it seems like it's found itself the perfect hunting perch. Low to the ground means it doesn't have to travel far to be able to get the food it needs. And there's a few blue waxbills that are also bouncing around in that area, and I'm trying to see if I can't see one. There was one in the tree, but there was one just flew past. I don't know if you saw it in the background. But they're up and down and they're moving around all over the place, and often find the blue waxbills here. They like these little thorn sort of trees that have been placed to stop erosion on the side of the dam wall here, and it's the perfect place for a blue waxbill to go in and just hide out, and they know that they're quite safe in there because of all the thorns. It's protecting them from a number of predators, and so that's why they're utilizing it. Very cool. So lots of activity, even though it is a blustery day and we might struggle with the larger animals, there still is lots of birds around, and well, our hippo is here, and zebras have been good to us, so it hasn't been too bad so far at all. Right, well, we're going to continue on our way now because I think Treehouse Dam has given all it's going to give, and while we do that, let's go across to Byron, who's still in search of anything with a heartbeat.
Yeah, I am indeed, Tristan. We've had no luck just yet. Even the birds seem a little quieter this morning. And as I say that, I just saw a white-crowned, sorry, I seem to have a frog in my throat this morning. Southern white-crowned shrike. And then what have we got in there? I think it's a starling. Let's just have a look. No, it's a little crested barbet. Look at that, beautiful. That's a lovely crested barbet. Now, Michelle, you asked when the seasons start changing and the birds come back, so I'm assuming you're asking about the migratory birds, because the birds, we've got a lot of different species here that are here throughout the year. But the summer visitors like the cuckoos and kingfishers, a lot of those birds will return the beginning of summer, so early summer or spring even. Some of them as early as September, some October, November. We always say, you know, when you start hearing the woodland kingfisher and the red-chested cuckoo, that really is the start of summer. So some of those do arrive in November, somewhere around there. the start of summer. So those are the species that migrate, and then they're here till about April. Some of them even April, May, but March, April they will start migrating again north for the winter, for our winter, and then they come back again when we have summer. But those are just the migratory birds. We still have a number of species that are here throughout the year. Oh, there's a beautiful little bird sitting in here, folks. Can you get it? It's a golden-breasted bunting. There we go. Oh, well done, folks. Sorry, just in the thicket there, but look at that. Golden-breasted bunting. It is a beautiful little bird. Bright yellow, bright yellow. That black face with those white stripes. Very easy to identify with that striping on its face. I haven't seen one of these for a while, or sit like this for us, and again it's because I think because of the weather, because of the wind. They're not flying around as much. Lovely little bird. There we go. Well, that's nice. At least we're seeing some interesting little birds, beautiful little birds. There it goes. Oh, there's a few little birds here. There's a bit of a bird party at the moment. Sorry, Kirk. Let's just have a look over here. Fergs, we've got a southern black tit. It just flew off actually. But there are a few different birds. Often these southern black tits are around bird parties. So if you see these little black and white birds, you'll see a bird party. And I've seen some shagras flying through here. I've seen all those little buntings. I've seen some starlings, but they're all very quick, very fast moving little birds. It looks like a brew that flew up there too. Sorry we can't show you many of these because they're jumping around and disappearing through the trees. It's actually almost impossible to try and get them on camera, I think. Kirk, sorry, just getting back to your question. And Chantal, I didn't hear the beginning of that. What did Kirk want to know about the birds? Yes, well, Kirk, as I was explaining with the birds returning, the birds are always here. It's just a case of finding different species and new species, but the summer visitors will start arriving some of them from as early as September, October. So that's when you need to get the bird books out and the lists ready. I just want to see if I can get some of these little birds for you. A few fluttering around here. There's definitely a bird party going on here with the southern black tit. Oh, there's that little blackbird sitting, jumping around there. That's a scimitable. There we go. Look at that beautiful long beak. Do you see that? Where'd it go? There it is. It's still just there jumping up around the tree. Oh, that's a nice one. A common scimitable. Look at that. Now, that little scimitable is a beautiful little bird. It's just disappeared now. But that's a nice little bird that we don't often see because it's also quite shy. We hear them a lot. James, I think in the spirit of Father's Day, you've asked, there we go, that's a southern black tit. You've asked, is there any bird species where the raising of the chicks or raising of the young is done solely by the male? Now, good question, but there is indeed. And that bird species is known as the African jacana. The African jacana, the males look after the nest and then raise the chicks, not the females. The females are polyandrous, I think is the right word. Now, using big words early in the morning, that's never right. So polyandrous, and what that means is the females have more than one partner, and the males then will look after the eggs and raise the chicks, and the females don't really have much to do with the raising of those young. You can hear there was a woodpecker knocking behind us somewhere too. So a lot of nice little birds that just flew in this area. That's great. Mita, age 8. Good morning, Mita. And I'm sorry I didn't explain what a bird party is. And we referred to a bird party when you basically what happens is you get a number of different species of birds that all move around together and they'll go and look for food together. But you'll have, just like we had there now, we had southern black tit, we had scimitar, we had the buntings, we had, what else did I see? The shagras, there was some shagras there. I could hear some chin spot batters. There was a brew. So there were a lot of different birds all moving together. And that is what we refer to as a bird party. So a number of different species all in the same area. There's no real competition between them, and they'll move around together. So that's exactly what that was. That's a bird party, Mita. There's some there's some arrow marked babblers around here. Where did they go? They're just flying off. I could just hear them. Let's see if we hear them quickly. Hold on a second. Now they do allomimetic calling, which is social calling. Birds all call at the same time, the group of birds. And the arrow mark babblers are known for doing that. Riti, you asked if I could show you a bird nest today. I will do my best, Riti. Let's see if we can find a bird nest. No, the babblers seem to be quiet now. Now, we've at least had a bit more luck now with the birds. So our luck's starting to change. Maybe we're going to find something a bit larger soon. Let's head across to something much larger than myself. Tristan.
Well, not that much larger, Byron. We know that you are Mr. Biceps and Mr. Beefcake, and so, well, I think we're on a level playing field at this stage. I might be a bit taller, but you're definitely got the bigger guns out of the two of us. Well, that's what we hear anyway. We'll have to see. Maybe Byron one day will do the gun show and show us his biceps so that we can all see just how big they are. Because he always goes on about them. He tells us about how big his biceps are and that, you know, he's been working out. And so I think maybe one day we're going to need to ask Byron to show us those guns. Maybe today's the day. If it's a quiet drive and we battle to find more animals, we can ask Byron to show us the guns. I'm sure Ferg will be rooting for it. Ferg was having a laugh yesterday with the two of us. Now, I'm just driving on the sort of western side, just checking. You never know, maybe Shadow and Cub are lurking in this area, and because it's very quiet everywhere else. Didn't find any sign for Hasana around Treehouse. I was thinking maybe if he was at Chelapan last night, he could have turned back this way. or yesterday morning should I say, and maybe he was going to come towards Treehouse, but alas, no sign there. So I'm going to just quickly check here. If there's nothing for Shadow and Cub, then it's on to Twin Dams to try and see if we can't find any sign that side. Any tracks there? No tracks on that. There's some impalas. No, nothing that I can see for Shadow. She normally comes in this area. This is the sort of general section that she comes in. If she comes north and then she cuts to the west from here towards Arathusa side. But there's no real sign, and the fact these impalas are quite relaxed. Is that more zebra? It is too. There's another herd of zebra. Can you believe it? So I wonder if Tesla's watching. Tesla's one of our regular viewers, and she loves zebras. And this is the most zebras I think we've seen in weeks. So hopefully she's around and she is watching and she's able to see all the zebras. And if she's not, maybe she'll catch up later with all of them. But you can see how one zebra is doing what zebras love to do, and that is to rub on things. They always are notorious for this, and it's quite funny because I've spent time in areas where, you know, in South Africa we have a lot of places that are called game farms, and often you'll find a small little lodge on there, and they'll have things like zebra and giraffe and kudu on these smaller areas that roam around, and you find that the zebras are a big problem in those areas. And the reason why they're such a big problem in those areas is because often these zebras go up to varying objects and they rub all over them, and eventually it gets to the point where they actually rub through things. I know that there's been cases where they've rubbed through electrical cables, where they've rubbed through posts that hold up electrical cables. So they are really quite a nuisance with that sort of thing. And the reason why they do that is all just to try and keep their coats in good condition. They get itches and they get loose fur, and they try and get rid of it by scratching. It's the exact same as what we do, and that goes in hand with the tail swinging. Now Laurie, you were asking why do they swing their tails so much. It's all to try and keep insects off them. So they get a lot of these biting flies, which is a type of fly that lands on us and on animals, and it kind of lands on you and it just feels like this increased amount of pressure until it gets painful, and so it's very irritating. And the zebras use their tails to try and keep those flies away. In a day like today where it's very windy, they're not having to do it nearly as much as when it's a sort of hot, still day, because the flies are going to be battling a little bit to fly in this, but it's still why they do it. It's just to try and keep parasites away from their body, the same as the rubbing itself. Now I thought I spotted a carcass hanging in a tree, but alas it's not. I don't actually even know what it is. It's just a big thick lump in a tree, and I'm going to go forwards quickly so Craig can just show you what I'm talking about. Craig, if you look directly to our east in the big marula there, you'll see a big thickened lump, and it might actually just be a branch, but from here in this dingy light it almost looked, there you go, I thought maybe it was a carcass hanging from the tree, but alas, it's just a thickening of the branch itself. It almost looks like a wood rose. Now, for those of you who don't know what a wood rose is, it's caused by the tree trying to protect itself. And so normally when wood roses form, you'll find them in things like knob thorns, sometimes on marulas. It's from where another bird, like a barbet or a those kind of seed-eating birds, grey go-away birds, they come along and they've fed off mistletoe. Now the mistletoe is a very sticky seed, and they go then to a tree and they try and wipe their beak, and eventually the seed gets wiped onto the tree. It then starts to germinate and grow from there, because mistletoe will be parasitic, and the tree's response to that is much like if we get hurt, we end up getting swelling developing. It's the same thing for the tree. The tree will then grow with wood over that mistletoe seed to protect itself, and you get this big sort of lumpy formation, and it's known as a wood rose. And so we see it on quite a number of trees, and that's what that might be, is just a very, very large woody extra section that has been added to that marula. Onward and forward. Let's see. If it had been, wouldn't that have been nice? This would have been, I think, the first big carcass I would have spotted here in Djuma. But how nice is it to have so many zebras? This is very cool. I'm glad. I like zebras. Zebras are quite entertaining characters, and they're very pretty animals, so they definitely brighten up the landscape, and particularly on a dreary day like this, their black and white stripes are very pretty. So nice to see the zebras around, and hopefully they'll stick around for the weeks to come. I'm sure Taylor will be excited to know a lot of the zebras are back, and I wonder if any of this lot or if this is the McCurdy herdie that's just been split up a little bit, and that's why we're seeing them all over. Now, I believe Brent has been fighting off gremlins, and given that he's so active in the mornings, I'm pretty sure he's done a great job. So let's go across to Brent and see how he's doing.
Welcome back to Kenya. The lions are on the hunt. We've lost sight of them now, but they're stalking a lone male waterbuck. They've disappeared and dispersed into the grass. So there's the waterbuck. Now we've lost sight. Well, I think I see one lioness over here to the left sense. There, I think is that a lion? It is. It could be one of the cubs. No, it's an adult lioness. Now, the others have spread out, and one of them was actually heading quite close to where the waterbuck is, although I think that waterbuck is quite safe. It's in the short grass, but the lions are definitely giving it a go. Now, he doesn't look too perturbed at the moment. Now, I'm pretty sure one of the lionesses is going to pop out quite close to us in these bushes. The last place I saw it disappear was in here. And I think if the waterbuck runs, it's going to run towards us. So we decided to position ourselves on the other side of where all the vehicles are. And some of you might even notice there's a bus. Those are school children out here for the weekend. And they're all there. It's their camp or their trip away, and you can see all their mattresses on the roof. So it's a school bus. I just keep trying to find this lioness, one that was heading this way, to try sort of flank around the unsuspecting waterbuck. Oh, it is an absolutely magnificent morning here in Kenya. I know the poor boys at Djuma are being pelted by the wind. We've got a gentle breeze and beautiful weather. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you've got any questions for us. Well, maybe he's up. Maybe he knows what's cracking. Maybe he didn't get to this edge by being a fool of a waterbuck. Stick to the short grass, and the lions can't sneak up upon you. Natalie, talking about my shuka, Natalie says it's quite colourful. It is indeed, Natalie, as colourful as I am, I'd like to think. Oh, so he heads down, grazing. Mystic Wolf loves the shuka. Me too. I think it's wonderful. Now, of course, there's so many wonderful different variations of shukas. I think by the time we leave Kenya, I'm probably going to have, well, Jamie and I are probably going to have 50 or 100 different shukas. We're actually going to get one, a really big one made for the bed as a cover. I think that'll look quite spectacular. So I didn't quite get who said that, but someone says it goes with my hat. Lara Moore said it goes well with my hat. Now there's a very, very important reason why I'm not wearing my normal green hat, and you'll see this is a blue hat. It's a new.
Sorry, we just lost signal there with Brent for a second. Now, I've got some interesting to show you now while Brent's hopefully going to get a better view of those lions. I've just seen some tracks over here, and I just wanted to double check what they are. But it appears as if these are all hyena tracks. Looks like 2 hyena that have actually walked along the road during the course of the night or early this morning. But you can actually see the tracks all over the road here at the moment. Just double checking to see if there's anything else, because these tracks are nice and clear. But these are just the hyena tracks from, looks like last night sometime, maybe early this morning, looking for food or looking to scavenge off of something. It's nice to stretch the legs a little bit. And also stopping and listening, just trying to hear. Maybe we hear an alarm call of sorts, or anything for that matter. But nothing just yet. Still very windy. I did just get an update though from some of the other guides. They found Tingana. Unfortunately, he is to our east. He's on Torchwood at the moment, and they found him, but he's lying down close to a dam. Apparently he was there yesterday afternoon too in that area, so I'm not sure if he's got a kill in that area or if he's just decided to rest there for a while. But they did find him on Torchwood, which is good. At least we know he's around, and that will also give us an idea. If he does start moving, then they can let us know. Maybe he moves in this direction. But who knows? He could pop out later today or tomorrow, maybe, on our side. That's for those of you who are new viewers. Tingana is a big male leopard, dominant male leopard we see around this area. Don't forget, everyone, send us your questions or comments. Hashtag Safari Live is how you do it. We do enjoy hearing from you, and you can ask us anything about safaris, about the wildlife. We'll hopefully answer them for you. MJ, you asked if I've also got a shuka. No, I don't. I'm not in East Africa like Brent is, so we don't need them. We've got jackets out here. So no, I don't have one. Maybe I'll ask Brent or James to bring one back for me though, just to have one. It looks like the whole team over there they've got a few of them, I think. Yeah, we'll start up a shuka sales store here at Djuma when they return, I'm sure. Jason, you say my hat appears to picked up an injury. My hat, where? Is that what it was, Chantal? Is it? Oh, there. Yeah. It was a lion attack. I fought it off with my bare hands. Not really. No, I don't know what it's from. I don't know what. yeah. I don't know. Maybe a branch or something scratched it. Yeah. It's Fergus has just reprimanded me. He said I'm looking a bit tardy and not neat and tidy as a guide should always look. And actually, you're onto something there, Fergus. I do agree with you. I do think a guide should always look respectable when he's guiding his guests and look decent, well dressed, not tatty. But maybe a little torn hat or scraped hat now and then gives him a bit of character. That's it. Just like the rugged non-shaved look. Oh, It's a man's character that gives a man character. Wise words from Fergus this morning, the oracle himself. Sure. This wind is very unpleasant at the moment. And it's getting a bit chilly. Tristan actually said this morning when we were leaving camp, he said he thinks this weather is just going to get colder, not warmer, and I think he's right. I'm definitely feeling a bit colder now, and also because we're out for quite a while, the constant wind does definitely start making us feel a little colder. Rebecca, the worst that the weather gets here, it's not that bad, to tell you the truth. Okay, we do get big storms, and we've had seriously big storms in these areas before. Rain and thunder and lightning and winds. But the worst in terms of temperature, I think the coldest I've ever got, or temperature-wise here, is 0 degrees. That's the coldest we've had. I don't think I've ever been in the minus here before. Maybe a -1 or so one morning. July is the coldest month here, but about 0 degrees. So for us, that's very cold. For South Africans, that we're not used to those temperatures a lot of the time, except if you live in Johannesburg, I suppose, and other parts of the country. The Cape gets very cold, can get down to -5, -7 in certain parts of South Africa. But again, I'm sure a lot of our European or American viewers are all laughing at that, saying that's not cold at all. No, it isn't, and we can't comprehend the -20s and -30s that some of our viewers experience. That's just scary. Now, it looks like Tristan's luck has run out somewhat for the moment, but he's still driving around, he's still trying his best. Let's go and encourage him a little bit.
Well, thank you, Byron. Appreciate that. But our luck has run out because I was racing to Chitwa because of the wild dogs, but they just went south off Chitwa into a net, so there's no way to try and go and get there. I'm going to just check anyway and check the southern boundary. Maybe we get lucky, maybe they still come back, but we're going to try and see. So Rebecca, you were wondering if the dogs have been seen around lately. Well, yes, they were seen right now. Unfortunately, we just didn't get you in time. Well, even if we got you in time, there was a lineup of vehicles, and so we wouldn't have been able to see them anyway. So unfortunately, they have gone south, and these 3 dogs are very difficult to see because of their extreme sort of movement that they have. They tend to move all over the place, and they don't sit still for 1 second, so they're quite tough. They're not as easy as the bigger packs that tend to actually sit and take it easy. In terms of the bigger packs, Investec pack hasn't been seen for a while. I think the last time they were seen was about a week ago, up in southern Manyeleti, Buffelshoek boundary area. And the Sands pack, I think, was seen yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the day before, on between Ottawa and Inyati on the western side of the Sabi Sands. So that's where the dogs are at this stage. But I was hoping these 3 were going to just stick around Chitwa airstrip and do some hunting, but it sounds like they were trying to kind of look for impalas, and they ran straight past a herd without seeing them and then went southwards. So I'm just cruising on the southern boundary just to see. You never know, maybe, just maybe, one of these dogs comes flying past us and our luck changes, and certainly windy enough that a wild dog might get blown this way. So that's what we're going to have to hope for. So I also have to apologize to Byron for spraying him with dust a little bit earlier, because he was driving down a certain road and so was I, and I was trying to get here quite quickly. So I'm sorry, Byron, if I created dust for you, and sorry, Ferg, if you had to wipe your lens from the dust cloud that I left behind. I do apologize. Now the dogs were somewhere here, apparently, is where they were last seen going southwards. We're right on the cut line now. And so the lodge and the dam is just to our north, and the airstrip runs this way, and it's a really good place for wild dogs to hunt. I've seen quite a number of wild dog hunts in this area. Given that it's quite open, it works quite well for them, as well as the fact that you get a lot of animals in this section. So you'll get a lot of impala, a lot of kudu, wildebeest, all of these kind of animals that spend a lot of time here. And so the dogs have quite a high success rate when they come to this area. They generally can pick up something, and then from there they chase it through these varying thickets and inevitably are quite successful. But I can see where they cross. They just cross straight south here into this thicket that we see over here, and there's a pan just on the southern side. That's probably where they're heading to, is to a place called Jack's Pan. So I would imagine that's where they're going to be, but we'll be a little bit patient. We'll just take it nice and slow along here, and you never know, they might just maybe pop out. With dogs, you can never be too sure at the direction that they're going to take. They go south, then they come north, then they go east, then they go west, and it just becomes absolute chaos with them. And so sometimes it's worth just being patient and, well, trying your luck, really. You can see where the cars went off here. They went south down that way and back again. So here's one of the guys that saw them. Now I'm going to try and see if I can't find any sign of them, and while we do that, let's go across to Byron, who I believe has got something rather fluffy to show you.
Yes, our first animal of the morning, a waterbuck. Our first mammal, at least. It's at the water's edge. Very fitting for the waterbuck. Now we just got down to Chitwa Dam. I've just come to have a look around this area, scan the clearings a little bit, see if there are any animals around here that have maybe decided to look for shelter in the open grassland. You can actually see waterbuck on the opposite side of the dam there too. Can you see in the distance? Walk in the top of your screen, you'll be able to see them. So it's a lovely view. Waterbuck. There's a hippo in the dam. The hippo just went under. There you go, those waterbuck. It's amazing. You can actually start seeing the change in the bush now very clearly, if I think from a month ago. Just how much drier it is looking, those autumn colours coming through, or winter colours now rather, no, winter, not autumn, the brown, the no leaves. Also see the resident fish eagle is here this morning too. It's through there we go, folks. Now, was it Riti that asked to see some nests this morning? Well, there's a nest, Riti, a red-billed buffalo weaver nest just below the fish eagle. Look how that fish eagle's trying to balance in the wind. It can't be easy. Branches swaying, it's very windy, and I'm sure some of you might even be able to hear it in my microphone. But it's definitely not ideal weather this morning. So I think what we're going to do is maybe
Well, Byron, it's not going well just yet. But the encouraging thing is apparently they were chasing a nyala north back to the cut line. So hopefully they've come back over. I can't see any signs of them, and I've checked around lots of impalas everywhere that are looking fairly relaxed with life. So we're just checking, trying to see where they could have popped out. You can see here some more impalas in front that are perfectly relaxed. They're busy feeding and are not too concerned about what's going on at all. So definitely no wild dogs have come this way, that's for sure. Now, I'm sorry guys that I'm coming past you at a rate of knots, but if there are dogs, we don't have time to sit around. It's one of those animals that you've got to move your backside a little bit and try and cover as much distance as quick as possible, particularly if they're chasing, because if they're chasing animals, then they're at full speed and then it just becomes absolute chaos and they can cover distance very, very quickly. So we're just trying to see now if there isn't a sign of them somewhere in this area. So Christine, you want to know what the speed limit is on these roads? Well, there's no sort of speed limit given. It's generally accepted that 40 kilometers an hour is as fast as you should go, and 30 is really what everybody kind of sticks to when driving around. But when you're following animals, there's no speed limit. So if you're following wild dogs and they're hunting, you can go as fast as the wild dogs are going, which means you're going to be traveling at close to 70 kilometers an hour following the wild dogs, trying to get towards them. So that's okay, that's acceptable, as long as it's following an animal that is moving at the same speed that you're moving. But otherwise we try and sort of keep it at around 30. We don't want to get too fast, because obviously we don't want to scare any of the animals or hurt any of the animals or anything like that. Now you can see this is where the dogs were apparently heading towards, but the number of impalas here that are just doing their own thing would typically suggest that the wild dogs have not come this way at all and are more than likely still somewhere to our south at this stage. We've got two sort of sparring males in front of us. Let's see if they're going to lock horns. Now, of course, obviously, if the wild dogs are chasing something, it's also dependent on which way the animal runs. If the animal decides to run east, they're going to run east with it. If it goes west, they're going to run with it. And so that's what we've got to hope, is that the nyala decided to run more north and that the dogs pop out on the actual cut line. But you can see this is a slow process, and that now what they're doing is just busy posturing at one another. So they're trying to size each other up and show and visibly display horns. That's why he keeps kind of going back with his head. And at some point, though, you'll eventually see they will lock horns. It just takes a bit of time. Obviously, got to get rid of any itches that you have first. This is all prep. It's like a boxer in a ring when he's sort of jumping around. This is the same thing with these guys before they actually clash. Now, you two might want to pay attention. If there's wild dogs around, not paying attention is not a good idea. And I'm surprised that the dogs are not in this area. Given how many animals there are here, I would have expected them to have come this way and started to try and hunt in this section. But maybe they cottoned onto a nyala first, and that's why they're preoccupied and haven't headed this direction yet. And these will be the same wild dogs that were giving Tingana a hard time last night and chasing him around. This is not too far south of where Tingana was on Torchwood, and so it is the same lot that have moved into this area. Come on, you two. This is the slow and steady build-up is this one. Come on, you two. There we go. You see how it just goes out of nowhere. They just clash horns and then stops. So, Harry, you want to know what the success rate of wild dog hunts is, and so this is a very interesting issue, and if you read a lot of books, it's going to tell you that wild dog have a 60 to 70% success rate, which is an absolute fallacy. It is not true whatsoever. And so, speaking to the guys that study the dogs here in Kruger and have done extensive research into this, they say that the wild dogs generally are as low as lions in terms of their success rate. So they reckon it's only about 30%. But the interesting thing is what constitutes a hunt is where the debate comes in. So is it a chasing of an animal? Is it something where they go into a stalk mode? Where do we draw the line as to what a hunt is? And then that's where it affects the sort of success rate of what's going on. Also, people believe that wild dogs, when hunting, will sort of tag team and one another will chase, and then they tire and another one takes over. It's not always the case. What mostly happens, and particularly when you've got 3 dogs like this, is that they'll panic a herd and each one will chase its own individual prey item. And yes, maybe one catches, but the other 2 have failed, and so those 2 hunts are a failure and 1 has been successful. So it's only 30% then of those 3 hunts have been successful. So their success rate is much lower than what people think. It's just that they hunt so much more than what the cats are that they tend to feed that much more, and therefore people think that their success rate is much higher than the cats. It's just that they're actively chasing more animals in a morning. You can go with a pack of wild dogs and probably see them chasing maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 animals in a morning and only catching 1. Whereas lions or leopard generally will stalk 1 individual animal, and either they're successful or they're not, and if they're not, they then go and lie down and rest. They're not like the dogs that will continue to hunt and continue to chase multiple different animals until such time as they actually catch them. Right. Impalas have stopped fighting. Everybody is very sedate. Wild dogs are nowhere to be found as yet, but we're going to just check again down towards the cut line. Maybe if they've finished their chase, they're going to pop out somewhere. And often with wild dogs, once they've chased an animal, because they build up so much heat running around because of the sort of way that they run and the endurance that they display, they often head to water. So I want to just check again on the boundary just to make sure they haven't come up towards Chitwa Dam side for a drink. And otherwise, if they haven't, the only other water source is south of us inside a nets. But these impalas are all far too relaxed to have seen wild dogs coming past any time recently. So David, you're wondering if wild dogs eat their prey alive? Yes, they do. So basically what happens is a wild dog, depending on how it's been caught, but generally it's one wild dog will latch on, is able to pull that animal down, and it then starts to try and eat straight away from the stomach area. And what they try to do is they try and open that up to be able to start pulling all the intestines and everything out to try and kill this animal as quick as possible. If that's the case, then obviously the animal is consumed while alive. But sometimes what you'll find, and I'm just going to say hello to Roy quickly. Hello Chris, hello Roy, how are you doing? Good, good, good. Hello everybody. Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, cool. Thanks Roy. Cheers guys. So, where was I now? Yes, so it's one individual, then yes, they eat that animal alive. And actually there was a very graphic video on Facebook recently of an impala that was caught by a dog and it was starting to be eaten while it was alive. And it was actually then stood up and tried to fight the wild dogs off with all its entrails hanging out. It was quite horrible to see. So they do that, but if the whole pack arrives, then generally what happens is that they all grab and everybody just pulls, and everyone then grabs basically a chunk, and that animal then goes into a sort of quartering process where it just gets pulled apart. And funny enough, it looks really gruesome and it looks terrible, but it's actually far more efficient in killing that animal than, let's say, what the lions or the leopards display. So even though you're seeing this poor animal going into 1,000,000 pieces in 5 seconds, it actually is dying instantly. First of all, because it's being grabbed and it just dismembered so fast that the body just basically gets pulled apart and you can't survive without a head and limbs and all of those kind of things, and so it dies almost instantly. Whereas the cats, and particularly lions on a buffalo, sometimes that can take up to 3 hours for that buffalo to drown on its own blood from the cat being over its mouth. So a lot of people give dogs a bad reputation because they say that they are cruel animals and that they kill, you know, the other animals, and then they are inhumane by pulling them apart, but actually they kill those animals much faster, and the animal has far less distress than what you'll find with when the cats kill them. Come on doggies. Craig, do you have a dog call that you can use to get us dogs? Dog pheromones? No. Craig only works with the bats. He can't do dogs. Now there's a car behind me that I think wants to pass me, so I'm going to try and move out the way so that they can pass us. Now, Mr. Byron Biceps Fagasa apparently is shivering in the cold. So let's go across to him and tell him that there is a blanket under his seat that he could use, but apparently Byron has shivered so much, he's shivered the antenna off and now has no longer got signal, so we're just going to carry on with us. But I should suggest that Byron just, if he stands up, there's a blanket underneath his backside that he can just wrap around himself should he be cold. Now, it's not a blanket that you would really want to wrap around you because everybody sits on them all day long, even in the summer months when it's hot, and I don't know when the last time these blankets were washed, which is probably not a good thing, and maybe we should actually get to that. But if Byron is desperate and he's shivering that much, then I suppose that's the only thing that he's going to have to use. Now, I was a fool this morning because I managed to put my long pants in the washing too late yesterday, and so all my long pants are now off to the washing, so I'm in shorts this morning, and it is rather frigid on the old legs, I can guarantee you that, particularly because the wind is coming from the southerly direction, and most of the morning I've been heading east, which means this wind is howling straight into the side of me, and not having a door means that I now have legs that are being exposed, and I can tell you are very, very cold indeed. Now, I just heard a Franklin alarm call. Maybe these dogs are somewhere on this side. The last sighting there was just to my right hand side here, in this little thicket that we've got, and I wonder if they haven't come out, it must mean that they caught this nyala somewhere. But generally when dogs catch something, you can hear it. It gets very excited and dogs chatter and they make lots of noise, and so you would normally hear that going on. But with this wind, I suppose, in a drainage section, it could be very, very difficult to say, or to see, or to hear them. But we shall just sit by for a little bit and just maybe take in the sort of sounds, and maybe we get lucky and a dog just appears out of nowhere in front of us. That's sometimes what does happen. But I can't hear anything. It seems as though it's all quite quiet. Of course, other than the rustling of leaves and trees and grasses from the wind. Nope, I can't hear anything, can't see anything, but I am going to be patient, and I'm going to try stay here for a little bit longer and see if these dogs don't pop out, because, well, wild dogs are just the most entertaining creatures, and I really do want to see them. And while we do that, let's go across to our shivery Byron and see if he's managed to sort himself out and get his picture back, as well as get himself warm.
I am feeling a lot warmer, Tristan. I've got my gloves on, and that's a rookie mistake that you're wearing short pants. Now, I do hope, though, that Tristan has luck with the wild dogs. It would be wonderful to see them and find them. I've returned back to Djuma, driving through the Mulwati, actually, in the drainage line, just to see if there are any animals that have headed down there looking for shelter out of the wind, because it's very pleasant down there. No wind at all. It's wonderful. But we didn't see any sign of anything. It's been very quiet on our side at the moment. I've been driving all these roads, checking maybe something comes out. And I was going to say I was hoping it would warm up a little bit and we might get some more movement from some of the predators, but nothing yet. Need you asked if there'll be any more hyena den investigation? Yes, definitely. And I think I'll go past there shortly. Go and have a look and see if there's any activity around the hyena den. We'll see what we can find. Maybe we're lucky, but I don't think weather like this, usually the cubs don't like to come out very often. But you never know. You never know. We'll still go and check and have a look. I'm just going to jump out here quickly. I just want to show you something, or to double check this area. Now I'm checking here because looks like something's been wallowing in this mud wallow. There's some fresh mud on the ground over here. and there's definitely been something rather large, maybe some elephant and buffalo wallowing in the mud, caking themselves and then moving off again. You can see how the mud's actually dripped off of them as they've walked in this direction. But you can see that's actually quite hard already. So this is probably from yesterday at some point, maybe early evening yesterday, because that mud's already caked. It's become quite hard, and but it just shows you this dark mud. This is very dark soil. It's probably what we call a clay soil. So the texture of the soil is a lot finer, very fine sand particles or clay particles, and it's a lot darker, and it does protect the animals a lot better from insects or fleas or anything, ticks, especially ticks. So it's definitely had a nice wallow and moved off. But that's yesterday, and it's nice to just have a look and see how fresh the mud is, if there has been anything that's moved through there recently. Terry, I wish I knew where the elephants have gone. You've asked where they have all disappeared to, where they've gone. I'm not sure. The elephants are around. They definitely are around. And there's signs of them. We're still seeing tracks regularly, but we just haven't been able to find them for a few days, for 2 days or so. Well, Tristan had one yesterday. I did see one, even though people didn't believe me. I did see one. We just when we went to the area where I saw it, by the time we got there, it moved off, and we didn't know where, or we couldn't see it again. But there's still elephant around. They do still move through the areas. Also, you know, something we haven't seen recently is giraffe. Now that I think about it, I'm just going to think when last we saw giraffe. So speaking of elephant, we found elephant. There we go. So Terry, your questions have been answered. Yes, we found some elephant. Now let's see. I'm just wanting to see if it's a herd or if it's a single bull. Looks like one by itself. I'm going to stop right here, and hopefully this elephant decides to move down the road towards us. There we go. It looks like a male, a youngish male, and he is slowly approaching us. Oh, wonderful. It's a youngish male. Now sometimes these younger males, they test the envelope a little bit. They want to see if they can maybe chase us away. Let's see his behavior. I'm going to sit quietly though, or just keep my voice low and just see what he decides to do. He's been feeding on some grass. See that, lifting the head, opening the ears a bit. Oh, he's not interested in us. He may come round the side, possibly flap his ears at us. Let's see. It's actually just smelling us at the moment. He's still quite relaxed. Now, the